Yep.
Yep, I can hear you.
Good.
You can be heard.
Good stuff. Right. Welcome everyone to this live stream about the state of Stowe, whether or not it's broken beyond repair. So we all experience bugs and errors all the time in this game. We always have done. But I thought I'd spend about a month just logging things as they happened. And most of these that you're going to see are what I experienced myself. There were a couple that some of the teammates told me about had happened to them. And we'll just go through them and we can chat about them, and maybe even we can see some of them reproduced in the game. So we'll start off. I've done a slideshow which will talk about each individual bug that I've come across. This started back on January the 28th, and I think I put the last one in yesterday, but it was mostly in February that these were done. So let's start off with the general broken stuff in Stowe. So, and this is for most people, but not for everyone. So very long load times in most maps for all team members. And this varies a lot. So you can go into Japori, for example, and wait 2-3 minutes to get in. If you're not disconnected, you'll get in. And then the next time you do it, it'll load in within a few seconds, 5 or 10 seconds. And then you come out and go in again, and it takes another 3 minutes. So it's not like the map is preloaded. That's what we used to think, but it doesn't make any difference anymore. So very long load times is a real problem in this game. Many disconnects for multiple team members. So some people never disconnect. Other people get it all the time. I'm one of those that gets it all the time. Doc is also one of those that gets it all the time. Don't you, Doc?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Some people get it occasionally. One of our guys tonight just asked me to say hi to everyone because as soon as he logs in, he gets disconnected. Now that could be an issue at his end, it could be an issue in the server or somewhere in between. But what we have had, for example, what I've had is I've had 3 accounts running on the same PC, on the same, obviously the same internet, which is a wired internet connection, running at 550 megabits per second. And 2 of those accounts will get into a bug hunt, for example, and one of them won't. One of them will get disconnected, the other 2 will get in. Or sometimes 2 get in and one doesn't. All 3 get in, or none of them get in. There's no kind of pattern that we can discern. Disconnects are a real problem, as you'll see later on. Rubber banding and generally slow performance, especially when you've got a lot of people in a team on elite, especially if you've got pets and all kinds of things like torque builds. Everything slows down. The engine just cannot cope, and there's a slide about that in a bit. So let's go on to the specifics. So I did these in order of doing the mission, the events from 28th of January up till yesterday. As I did them, I wrote down the missions. So there's no specific priority or ordering. This is just as it happened. So we did the mission Takedown, and what we noticed there, and we've noticed this every time we've done it, you've got a voting system, and it just doesn't work. You know, you'll click and you'll get 5 of 5, and then it goes back to the start, and you have to do it all over again. So this was something introduced, I think, during Delta Rising, and they added a lot of these where you have to vote if you're on a team, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Hit and miss, but they've never addressed it. Another mission in the Delta Quadrant, alliances. So after you win over the hierarchy, which is where I think you have to kill what is it? It's the Voth ship, the Bulwark. Only some of the players in the team can warp to the last encounter, which is usually the Kazon. The others have to kind of exit the map, then go back in, and then they might get pulled through to where the Kazon are, which on the map shows at 120 kilometers away, but in actual fact, you can't actually fly there. It's in a different part of the map. So you have to leave, you have to exit to get back in. Another broken mission. Another broken mission, second wave. And this isn't in the main episode arc. This is in the available tab. What they did though, when they introduced Garrick, I'm just trying to think, Andrew Robinson, who plays Garrick, they replaced the character of Skyle, who was a Cardassian, with Garrick, which you could understand why they'd want to do that. Unfortunately, what they forgot to do was remove Skyle's dialogue, voicing dialogue. So you get Garrick and Skyle talking over each other. And in the mission text reference, it still references Skyle and not Garrick. So they just threw on the audio and didn't even check to see if it worked. And we've done this mission many, many times, and it's always broken. It's always the same. Another funny one, if you remember the start of that mission, you have to do a conference, and it's just before you see the Dominion coming through, you're sitting down and you're doing a conference, and a wormhole opens and a Jemadar beams into the conference room and kills the ambassador. Can't remember his name now. The little what are those ugly ones called? Tellarites. I have got people on here as well, but they're just they're a bit shy, I think.
The little Tellarites.
Tellarites, yeah. I can't remember his name, but he's the one holding the meeting. Jemadar beams in, kills him. Stas jumps. Stas, if you remember, is the big Gorn. Jumps across the table, kills the Jemadar, who then immediately stands there next to the Stas. I don't know if it's his ghost or it's just bad animation. So that is a mission that desperately needs reworking. Now, one of the patrols we do a lot, especially in our SRS DPS League, is the Ninth Rule. And it's got that annoying little Ferengi called Madran in it. As quite often, his ship just disappears. You attack the first couple of waves that come in, you go over and he goes, there's all these bullshit talking, and then you kill the next wave, and then you go to put the tractor beam on Madran, and he's gone. That's it. You have to leave the patrol. You can't do it. And of course you can't go back in because it's got a 30-minute cooldown. So that's another broken thing. Another mission, Temporal Front. This one really bugs people. Because isn't this the one that you get the Knuckle shield from?
Yes.
I think it is, yeah. So Daniels gets stuck on the second console. So we did this 3 times out of 5 attempts. And he just gets stuck. So the mission can't progress. So that's broken. Alright, coffers. Okay, this is when you're, like, for example, provisions in the fleet colony, you put them into the coffers. That worked great until they made some changes. Then at first you couldn't even use the fleet coffers for provisions on the colony. Then they put in coffers for DOFs on the colony, which I believe they've now removed. So in last week's patch, because no colony project requires DOFs anyway. However, you can't donate anything from any of the DOF coffers in any of the other holdings. Doesn't work. I know this is a new thing that they've released. It seems like they released it about a year early, and every few weeks they add a patch to make it a little bit better. They put something in this last patch to tell you how many uncommons, how many rares, and how many very rares you are donating, which is really good. So it'll say you're donating 20 uncommons and 2 very rare. So you can have a quick look down and make sure you're not donating a 20, 27 or 47 or something. So that still needs a lot of work. It's very broken. Disconnected on map transfer. This is the biggie for me. This is the one that really pisses me off the most. It happens to a lot of people, some more than others, as I said earlier. but it even happens to the devs on their own internal servers. Let me just get rid of this. I can't get rid of it. We'll go 1 sec. Switch that off. Right, there we go. So this was a live stream with Mike Fathom, Ambassador Kale, and Jeremy Randall, who's Borticus, who's now gone. He's left. Still at Cryptic, but he's doing another project and we don't know what it is yet. But as you can see there, they were, I believe if I remember rightly, they were going to show us the new latest Gamble box ship. And they were trying to get into our gala. And that's what happened. And that happened a few times on that live stream. So ever since then, Mike's always showed a different screen until he actually gets a gala loaded, because I think they were very embarrassed. So this is on the devs' internal server. They were not on holodeck. They were not on Tribble. They were on their own internal server. So that tells you that if they're getting disconnected from that, then this is a problem in the code. It's nothing to do with the internet or to do with your router. It's to do with their crappy coding. Their, you know, spaghetti coding that obviously is now very, very old on an engine that was designed in 2006. Teaming. There's quite a few teaming references. This is one that annoys us, because obviously as a fleet we try and do as many missions as we can in teams. And if we do a Tailor run, for example, it's a good example where we go and do Karaya, Japori, Beta Thoridor, all those. Every time we exit out of the map, it splits us. Now we might all be together, but quite often someone will be in one instance, somebody will be in another, someone will be in another. And people have to switch instances. It's just irritating. Why can't it? We can all get into the same instance. So if we could all get into the same instance, why doesn't it put us all in the same instance? Another mission problem, Revelations. This is a funny one. So when you beam down to the planet and you have to go and reset the planetary shield using those there's 4 little satellite areas. 7 tells you all about, as you're traveling between satellite towers, 7 tells you a life story, but she speaks it in a little pop-up out the side of the screen, but for each team member you've got. So if you've got 3 people on a team, you'll get it 3 times. You've got 5 people, you'll get it 5 times. So, and that kind of multiple dialogue error is common on really a lot of missions. V-Rex. Ever had the endeavor where you need to kill the V-Rex, and despite being, you know, hitting it pretty hard, you don't get the endeavor? So that happened to me and to, was it you, Mike? I think it was Mike, recently.
Yep.
Birdcage. This is a new TFO, which is pretty good. I really enjoy it when it works, which is about half the time. Many times you'll get through till you get to the big area where the general population is, and you'll have on the mission, you'll have destroy exterior fields. Oops, go back. Destroy exterior field controls, and nothing happens. And it seems to be the Inquisitor, because he's not there. And sometimes we go back and we find him in the beaming area, or he's somewhere else on the map. And even if you get him to follow you back to where general population is, nothing happens. We did it last night. And of course we have to abandon the TFO, and then we've all got an AFK penalty. So we're penalised. We wasted our time doing it. Plus we can't do anything else for 30 minutes because of the incompetence in the coding. The lack of testing, the lack of quality control. This is a brand new TFO and it doesn't work. Anyone here had that problem?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is really common. Another mission, Boulder Day Road. This is the one where you have to walk around the outside of Deep Space Nine in a EV suit, which is pretty cool for an old mission. So Wayoon, he's not voiced at all. When Loris beams over, the founder disappears. In the next scene, Loris disappears. And then, of course, you get disconnected mid-mission on map transfer again. Oh, and I've just remembered another bug on this one, which I'll tell you now because I know it's not in the list. If you're doing it on Elite as a team, when you get to the last chapter of Boulder Road, it's called Flight of Angels. It's based on the Deep Space Nine episode. The waves of Dominion keep coming forever. They never stop. So you can't finish the mission. The only way to finish the mission is to exit, switch to normal, leave the team, switch to normal difficulty, go back in, then you can finish it. You'll have to start that last bit again. You do 4 or 5 waves, then the Enterprise comes. So the Enterprise never arrives if you do it on a team of 5 on Elite. I don't know if the Enterprise arrives on Advanced. We don't do Advanced, but probably not. Oh yeah, I got disconnected entering the Sakara system. I actually got disconnected a lot, but eventually I stopped writing them down. Here's one that we often see. Couldn't join TFO. Message, this map requires a shuttle. The map was infected on this particular instance, but it can be any TFO. So your team's gone in to infected or wherever, and you're sitting there in Sol. And this message keeps flashing up across the screen. And the way to get out of it is just to exit Sol. As soon as you exit Sol, it will give you the load screen for the beta quadrant, and it will instantly give you another load screen for infected. Now, if you don't have a shuttle, you don't get this mission. So even though you've got a shuttle and it says this map requires a shuttle, which it doesn't, so not only is it an error because you can't join the TFO, even the error message itself is wrong because the map doesn't require a shuttle. Next.
Don't forget about new players not being able to access the rewards for those missions anymore either.
Which ones, Doc? The shuttle ones? We'll come back to that in a bit. Mission Scylla and Charybdis. Yeah, I practice saying that. On the chapter point, all in, all out, enemies spawn inside the Zenkethi base, and you can't destroy them. So the mission then becomes unplayable. That was a team of 5 on Elite. What we tried to do was exit, come back in, and we got disconnected. But eventually when we did come back in, played that chapter of the mission again, and it worked. The same thing happens in the breach. When you get inside the ship, the big Voth ship, where you have to lower the force field to go onwards.
The old missions that you were talking about over on DS9 with the old Jemadar missions.
Right. So on the breach, the ships will get trapped behind the force field. You can't kill them, and you can't therefore continue the breach. Loadouts. Sometimes if you press U to look at stats followed by clicking stations, it empties the loadout. Not every time and not for every person. Sometimes the loadout will then reload usually, but it's very unstable. This really happens a lot if you've just commissioned a brand new ship. Now, a lot of people on Reddit are always complaining about the loadout still failing. Seems to be some sort of coding issue that they can't get right. I don't know why. Badlands. Here's a quick one. If you change a weapon in the Badlands on your ship, it won't fire. So you exit the Badlands and come back in. This is one that some of our teammates get, one in particular. They can't leave the team. The only way to leave the team is to relog. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yep. Frequent. I've had that as well. Not as frequent as mine.
Very annoying.
Well, I have found a workaround of
Sometimes switching from invite to team and then back again, or vice versa, clears it.
It's good to know. Disconnected going into Japora with 5 on elite. First city. Consoles in the barracks just floating in the air like this picture here. And in fact, you can also see it here, look, in the barracks. Look at that. That is the console that should be on here. But it ain't. And I think the other one was in the doctor's room. Yeah, there it is. There it is, look. And that one you can't walk through. The other one you can walk through, that one's solid. I don't know why. What's the difference? Anyway, I don't know if there's any more in here, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is. So this has been like that since they revamped First City and got rid of all the NPCs that used to walk around. Now there's just NPCs that you can interact with. There's no population as such, which is, I don't know if it's a bug or if they just don't care about it. But if you go back into First City, there used to be Orions and Nausicans, Klingons, of course. Now look, there's nobody here. That's another player. So it's a ghost town. Klingon ship transwarped to Kronos. The ship instantly disappears, followed by a cutscene showing the ship going to warp, but the ship's not there. The timing's way out, and it's been like that for years. So you can see the ship's already gone. In fact, I think we can demonstrate that now. Well tried. Let's see if I get disconnected as well. That'd be good timing, wouldn't it? So, if I just exit this. Right, Fur, will do. Now, Kronos system. There we go. Ship's gone. And now the invisible ship is doing the warp. Gotta hand it to him. Teaming. Oh yeah, I think we actually had this one again. Team split over 3 different instances on almost every exit of each patrol in the Tailor system. Auto nav. You had that before? You bring up, so when you're navigating in space, the way I do it is I bring up my map. Well, I need to get out into space and bring up the system list and choose where I want to go. So let's say I want to go to New Romulus. You notice my ship doesn't turn, it just goes straight ahead. So either I'm amazingly luckily pointing at New Romulus right now, or we're not going to New Romulus. Let's see where New Romulus is. New Romulus is up there, and I'm going that way. So let's try clicking on it this way. Ship's not moving. Nothing. Sometimes you can get around it by turning your ship and then actually telling it to go to New Romulus or wherever it is you want to go. Now if it turns, now it's turning. So that's an auto nav failure.
Only way I can usually get to fix it is by switching instance.
Try turning your ship next time, then double clicking on the place. It seems to work, but not every time. Gravity Well. Gravity Well 3 with 530 control has a 12-kilometer range. It's ignored by half of the ships in the patrol. It's broken on almost every map. Gravwell used to work brilliantly until Borticus decided to mend it. And he was mending it because some of the Kazon ships in Argala were able to power their way out of the Gravwell. I thought they were supposed to be able to do that. I thought they were using emergency power engines and they were getting out of it. But apparently it was a bug. So they went in and changed it. And since then, half of the wave that warps in will completely ignore the Gravwell. The other half will go into it. Now, this is seen very well when you've got 5 people on a team, because with 5 people you get 5 lots of ships. So much more than you'd get with just 1 player. 5 times more, in fact. So that's been broken. I told Borticus immediately this doesn't work. Other people told him as well, and nothing was ever done. And now, of course, he's not even there. So whether or not Jonathan will have a look at that, I don't know. I hope so. Jonathan Herlash is the new systems designer. I hope I've got his title right. I think he took over from Borticus. But as it is at the moment, it's not very good. Oh, disconnected leaving Sol for the beta quadrant. A beta quadrant auto nav failure to new Romulus. We just showed you that one. Disconnected going to the bridge, fed, and to the KDF bridge. Wonderful. Bog Hunt. Bog Hunt Elite with 5 players. The Queen didn't spawn. I put fast run there because we were all pulling about 2k, which isn't amazingly good ground DPS. It's good, but there are people in the game that can pull 10 to 15k with engineers with mine builds, turret builds and things. We were all TAC players. So we went through it pretty quick, but the Queen actually just didn't show up. So once again, you got to exit and you get an AFK penalty. Thanks, Cryptic. Doesn't happen very often, to be fair, but when it does, it's annoying. Oh yeah, this one really pissed me off. We spent ages getting 10 people for a crystalline entity. Sometimes it's hard to get 5, but it's always hard to get 10. As it was loading up, I got disconnected. Now, by the time I'd logged back in, because the crystalline entity, even on advanced, is so ludicrously easy to beat, by the time I got back in, and believe me, I logged back in really fast, it was dead. So I got an AFK penalty. Thanks, Cryptic. ISE. Infected the Conduit Elite. Doesn't happen very often, but we've seen it happen where both transformers were down, but the shield stays on the gate for about 45 seconds. So you can forget your DPS run. That's ruined. Why does it happen? I don't know. I've only seen it once. I think some of the others have seen it a few times, but trouble over Terrh. So this is one we use for DPS runs. The Captain Alachi only appears for a random team member. It should appear for the team leader so that you know when to hit your buffs and when to continue the mission. But he appears randomly. You don't know who's going to get it. If it's a command decision that needs to be made when to start attacking, it should come to the team leader. Is that a bug, or is it just the way the game is designed? I don't know. Probably the latter. Undine Assault. So when you go into Undine Assault, Tuvok does a big talk. There's a cutscene, which of course we'll skip, but he carries on talking. And then Tuvok's also talking about what you're supposed to do next. So you get the cutscene dialogue. Even though you've cut the cutscene, you've skipped it, you don't skip the dialogue. You only skip the actual visuals. So you get that dialogue over the top of the other dialogue. And then the next one is a request, because we're sick of this as well. Please make it so that the planet killer is untargetable. because every time we go in there with pugs, we do the main what they're called, the gates, the portals,
Rifts.
the rifts. We do the big rifts, all 6 of them. Is it 6 or is it 9? 9, 1, 2, 6. Yeah, 6 rifts. And then there's 6 more errant rifts. Now, if you close all those errant rifts, you'll get about 60 more marks. But of course, there's always at least one pug who immediately goes over and starts killing the planet killer. And again, because it's so ludicrously easy, even on advanced, even your average pug can take down the planet killer. Sometimes they get killed, which is quite funny. Now, it doesn't matter how many times you ask them in team chat, they either don't care, don't have team chat on, don't speak the language, or don't see it. But they just carry on killing the planet killer anyway. So it'd be really nice if they would sort that out. Now the Tailor, I think this is the only error I've got in the Tailor, but there's a book full of bugs in the Tailor. I only put this one in because I'd made a new uniform for one of our fleets and I wanted to dress all the bridge officers up. And it's nothing special, it's just a temporal reputation gear. You can't put it on your bridge officers. Why not? You can't put it on any bridge officer. These aren't special bridge officers, it's just your normal bridge officer. You can't put it on. But the amount of bugs in the Tailors, different palettes for different genders, different races, things that are just cutting through, you know, it's just a mess. Dranuur Gauntlet. This is one that we can't do on Elite. Not because we're not capable, but because it doesn't work. So at the end of Dranuur Gauntlet, you have to kill 9 dreadnoughts. On Elite, that's not an option. So not all those dreadnoughts are counted. I had a dreadnought Endeavour, and in order to get 5 kills come up, I had to kill 14. As a team on Advanced, we killed about 60 dreadnoughts, but only 32 were counted. This means on Elite, it's virtually impossible to finish because it's one of the few missions that are quite difficult in the game, and you can with a good team quite reasonably kill 9 dreadnoughts as long as you don't screw up. But there's no way you can kill 27, which is what you have to do. 3 times as many. No one can kill 27. I think we've done it once, and we do everything on Elite. So that needs sorting out. Starbase 1. Single player. Endeavour was counted, but you don't get any marks. Now they've just recently made some changes to Starbase 1 to combat the botting problem, which Spencer brought up and did a good video on. You should watch that if you haven't seen it. So now you can't AFK Starbase 1. At least you weren't able to during the event that's just finished. Has anyone tried it tonight?
No.
We should do
Not
that
yet.
on Elite and see if you can AFK it. Because if you can, then the bots are going to be back and the Dilex is going to be through the roof again. But I'm hoping
I'll put my.
Well, the Deluxe is broken as it stands right now, so maybe that answers your question.
Let's have a look at it.
I'll put my. I'm going to go into Starbase 1 and try it out now.
Well, that's what first said. The Deluxe is broken again.
That's odd. There's 28,000 Zen at 500. So can you buy it? I think it's just that it's at its maximum again. I mean, this was at 11 million before Christmas, and now it's at 28,000. That should come through shortly. I don't think it's broken, but we'll see. Quantum Slipstream it ignores navigation point unless it's activated from your tray. So that is, if you put your quantum slipstream, which you can hit it here, if you hit it here, the top of the throttle bar, and let's demonstrate it. Let's go somewhere that's not too far away. Where are we? At New Romulus. Let's go to the cryo system. So, oh, it's just too close. I need one a bit further away. Gamma Eridon. So I'll go to Gamma Eridon. Wait till we're on target, and hit the quantum slipstream. Gamma Eridon with the 2 suns should stop. Look at that, straight past. Now, if you put the quantum slipstream, which you can find here, if you drop it onto your tray and then hit it from there, it'll actually stop on target.
Sorry, I'm having trouble connecting
Quiet.
to the internet.
Oh, God.
It looks like there's an
Why?
issue with the root to
Go away. Sorry, interrupted by my Alexa there. So that's broken. Unless you put it on the tray, then it works. However, if you've got a miracle worker ship and you like using cyclical quantum slipstream drive, who doesn't, because it's 90 seconds, that sometimes doesn't work even if you do put it on your tray. Tried that. I've had it work once. Most of the time it completely ignores the target, just like it did then. So that's broken too. This map requires a shuttle. Oh yeah, I got that again. We've already gone over it, but that was for going into Kittimer space. Birdcage. The Inquisitor stays at the loading point. That was because we had it again. Right, in mail, the mail system continues to tell you that you have new mail, even if you've read it. And so it happens on map transfers. So you read your mail, you close the mail system, you go to a different map, and you get the you know, to tell you that you've got mail, and it's flashing red. And when you open it, you've already read it. I've had it do that even when I've got no mail at all. It tells me that I've got mail. I go in, there's no mail. So that's broken, and it's been like that for as long as I can remember. Right, Nukara NTTE. We get this quite often. One of the team members does not get pulled in, despite them they assure us that they clicked accept when the pop-up appeared. So we go without them. Kick loading fleet starbase. That's a common one. Qualifications. When you want to train your bridge officer for a specialization like intelligence or miracle work or whatever. Qualification is lit up to train when you don't have a qualification available in your inventory. I don't know if I can see that on this Klingon, if that's possible or not. Let's just try one of these guys, see if it works. Well, that says learn temporal operative. Oh look, hasn't learned it, and it hasn't learned it because I haven't got temporal operative qualification in my inventory. So why is it lit up then?
You got it in the bank.
I don't have any in my bank. Pretty sure I don't, but let's just rule that out. We'll bring up the bank and have a look. I might be wrong, but as far as I remember, you're right. I do have one in my bank. Well done,
Hard to
Jerry.
miss them. It's hard to see them though, isn't it?
If it sees it from the bank, but it can't use it, then what's the point?
There you go.
I mean, now it's in my inventory. I should be able to learn that, and it's learned it. So it sees it that it's in your bank.
You should learn it from the bank.
Say again?
You should be able to learn it from your bank as well. Like, I mean, it's the same as if you do a loadout when you're, let's say you're in the starbase, like, and you do a loadout, it'll bring all the stuff that's in your bank, not your inventory, but in your actual bank. It'll bring it onto your ship. So there's no reason why it won't work on the specializations as well.
Exactly. So yeah, it's lit up to train, even if it's not in your inventory, where it can't be used. It can only be used from your inventory, but it's lit up anyway. Starbase 1, you might have had this happen to you. If continuity happens because you've been damaged, it jumps you 8 kilometers backwards, and it puts you inside the starbase in Starbase 1. Then you're stuck there for the rest of the TFO. You can't get out. Great fun. Well, they can still shoot you, of course. Bajor transwarp on the list. If transwarp cores are present, does nothing. Only the second entry works. So I wonder if I can bring that up. Bajor transwarp. So Alpha Quadrant, Bajor sector. Nothing happens. Bajor. This will use a transwarp coil. So this one, it says here, activating this transwarp will consume 1 transwarp coil. It doesn't do anything. This one tells me I've got 27 transwarp coils and it will work, as we can see. So why is it in there twice? And why doesn't the first one work? Why do we need it twice? It just confuses people. People think it doesn't work and they don't bother using it. Consoles. Oh, 2 consoles on the KDF shipyard simply state interact. They're both male consoles, but it doesn't say male. It says interact. They haven't finished the map off. Sloppy, Cryptic, sloppy. This is one that I talked about earlier. Running 2 accounts on the same TFO to make up the team for CCA. One account made it into CCA, the other account on the same PC on the same internet connection was disconnected. Navigation. Auto nav from Nukara to Sherman system didn't work. Mission Blood of Ancients. This is one that I do with my endeavors if I have to kill Herald ships. So on this particular one, you go to a briefing on ESD with Tom Paris. If you skip the cutscene, you immediately then put into this battle here, as you can see on the picture, which is Starbase 234. However, as you can see from that, hopefully you can see from that, it just says critical. There's no numbers. So you can shoot them all night if you like. You ain't going to kill them. So the only thing to do then is to exit, which usually puts you back towards Sol, because that's where you start the mission. Then you have to fly all the way to Starbase 234. Then you can continue the mission and it will work. Classic. Mission Empress Sela. If you're in a team, only one person can view the cutscenes for the security cameras. So there's a bit where you have to go into, you sneak into the back, you talk to Tokath, you sneak into the back rooms, and you have to look at all Empress Sela's security cameras and all that kind of stuff. But only one person can actually view it on the team. Everybody else has to stand there while you're looking at it. So what we end up doing is just skipping it. Teaming. In a team, changing to elite difficulty from normal, and the next mission remains in normal even though the team icon shows 3 bars. So it shows 3 bars for elite, but if you put your pointer over it, it'll actually say starting the next mission in normal difficulty, even though your own personal difficulty as the team leader is on elite. The Agony Rifle. Now this is one that somebody told me about. Was it you, Mike? I think.
That was me.
Oh, it was you, was it, Owen? The Mirror Universe Agony Field Rifle. Agony Field hold can be broken by a knockback, but the NPCs are still untargetable and they can shoot you. Lovely. So you can't target them, but they can shoot you. So something that's supposed to be helpful for you actually can end up getting you killed. Is that right, Owen?
Yeah, especially considering you can use it from a low level if you've got it.
Good point. Crash to desktop. Changing audio output device. Oh, that should say login screen. After disconnection. So if you get disconnected and on the login screen you've got your options, go in there and change your audio output device, and quite often you'll get a cryptic oops and it crashes to desktop. So don't try that. Disappearing NPCs. This is one that really annoys us. So the engine in this game, which I think was designed by Perpetual 2006, it simply can't cope with the amount of entities being spawned on the map. So you might have 2 or 3 carriers in there, and if they're using the hangars full of squadrons, that's 72 a squadron. Two hangars full of squadrons is 72 individual entities. Now if you've got torps in there as well, you've got all the torps and mines and stuff. So if you've got 2 or 3 carriers, you can literally have hundreds and hundreds of entities, and the map cannot cope at all. You're going to be infected, you can barely see the cubes even until you're right on top of them. Same in HSE. They just disappear. You don't know where to go. You don't know what to do because you can't see anything. You're just flying on muscle memory. So this is a well-known problem, and I have no clue how they could fix it because it literally is an engine problem. Doc, your mic's open, mate. Hive Space Elite. Oh, this is a fun one. So Borg cubes become invisible when you kill them. So they die, and they kind of, depending on what's killed them, they kind of disappear. And then reappear when they explode. So if you've killed it, you think it's gone, and you go forward to where it was to shoot the next cube. It then reappears right on top of you, explodes with warp core breach damage, which in Hive Elite is quite bad, and can easily kill you. So you have to remember where they were when they disappeared and fly around the now invisible dying cube. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up, could you? But that's what happens. Guns. This has been happening now for, I don't know, it must be 4 or 5 years. They made some change to the ground kit modules. So if you've got your gun out on ground, you're holding your gun. As soon as you go to do any kind of kit module that involves an animation like tapping your wrist, your gun disappears. And then if you're in focus mode, you stand there kind of looking, where's the camera? Looking like that. You know, instead of having a gun in your hand, you're like that. So you look like a dick, and you don't have a gun in your hand until you actually start firing it. Then, which then it magically reappears when you fire the gun. But as soon as you use your next kit module, it's gone again. Very, very sloppy. Oh, this old one. Player ships are decloaked by NPC dialogue, still after at least 10 years of complaining about it. So you're cloaked, stupid NPC will pop up, say something, and pulls you out of cloak. Why? Why can't they fix this? We were complaining about this literally 10 years ago. Especially if you're doing Karat or something like that. It's just, I don't know what to say. Feedback pulse. NPCs. So the problem here is that feedback pulse is massively out of balance. So if you've got a high DPS DEW ship, DEW is directed energy weapon, you'll die if you're shooting any NPCs with feedback pulse on elite. So it doesn't matter how good your build is, that NPC's feedback will bounce back all of your damage. So if you're kicking out 500,000 DPS with your cannon scatter volley, which is quite easy to do, many people do that now, you're going to get that 500,000 DPS back. So even if you've got 50% resists and your hull is at, say, 150, you're going to be dead in under 2 seconds, usually under a second. You've got like 1 second to turn away, stop shooting, and most people have their weapons on auto fire, so it's difficult to stop shooting them. So you get killed. And I think, and this is, it says here, this is because the NPCs are geared for the average low DPS player. And I think that's the case, because if you're kicking out 5k, it's barely going to touch you. If you're kicking out 50k, you'll feel it, but it won't kill you. If you're kicking out 500k, and you're going to die. So there needs to be a cap on the amount of damage that it can do. That way it'd still work well for the low DPS player, but it wouldn't completely ruin an event for the high DPS DEW player. Of course, if you're flying a torp boat or an EPG, it's completely unaffected because it doesn't reflect that damage back. It only reflects back beams and cannons. I hope they change it. And I think that was the last one. That was the last one. So some of the guys have put together some ships.
Yep, coming.
So we've got Rubber Band in the USS Sloding. You've got my ship, which is the USS Bug Trek Offline. There is Disconnecting in USS Offline. The Captain Craptic in the USS Incompetence. Who is that?
Oh, it's going to be a band for sure.
Is that you, Owen?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.